Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you so much for being here today on this special occasion. This is our third event for the series Artists in Conversation, a series of online webinars, lecture performances, and live streaming events that constitute the online component of our exhibition, Alive Beyond Boundaries, the Geography of Belonging, which is ongoing at JWD Art Space in Bangkok since June 1. My name is Loredana Pazzini. I'm the curator for the exhibition, and today I'm also the moderator for this event. First of all, I would like to express my sincere appreciation to JWD team and all who made this event possible, both the exhibition and the online program. Despite the many challenges that we have been facing and we continue to face due to the pandemic. As I mentioned, we opened the exhibition on June 1st, and we managed to stay open until mid-July. The premises are now closed because of a very severe third wave of COVID-19. While we hope to reopen as soon as it is safe to do so, to overcome the physical distance that now separates us, we have devised this online program, Artists in Conversation, which really aims to bring our speakers, feature and invited artists, curators and scholars closer to you to discuss some of the concerns that are at the core of the exhibition, such as how to define or to think about national imagining, national identity, and national belonging from an artistic and cultural perspective. So on this note, I would like to highlight that since we've developed a substantial digital information for our exhibition, I would like to highlight that we have added 2 pages to the JWD website, and I would like to express my thanks to the IT and marketing team. So if you wish to view the Artists in Conversation series and to watch again the webinars, the online webinars that we have conducted so far and those that we will be conducting in the future, please follow this link and that you will see under the screenshot that I made of the page under the news section, and there is the Artists in Conversation compiling all the online webinars. Whereas if you follow this other link under the blog section, there is another series that we have developed, Artists in Focus, where you will find a short 2 minutes video by each of the artists featuring the exhibition, where they talk and explain about their practice and works in the exhibitions and beyond. And the idea really to do so is because we want to create a repository of all artists and all works present in the exhibition, and also all the conversation that have developed around the exhibition, a repository that can be used as an open archive for the research on contemporary art in Southeast Asia. Specifically to today's event, today's online event, we will explore the relation between art and video game culture. Are these 2 realms running in parallel in Southeast Asia? When and what was the triggering point for the generation of the 90s and 2000 to expand their practice into gaming culture? Is video game culture a reflection of the culture of belonging? For today's event, I will be accompanied by exhibition artist Hà Ninh Phạm and invited artist Nawin Nuthong, respectively from Vietnam and Thailand, to explore the points of contact and divergence of art and video game culture, while also reflecting on the exhibition Alive Beyond Boundaries, the geography of belonging, ongoing concerns on national and cultural belonging. Ninh and Nawin have grown up relying on video games as infrastructural scaffoldings to develop their ability to cope and understand the real world. As artists, they both expand their practices into the research and the creation of video games, which are often used as mapping tools, physical or metaphysical, to consider alternative ways for the production of knowledge. I'm pleased also to say that today's talk is developed in collaboration with A+ Works of Art, NKL, and Bangkok City Gallery in Bangkok as the representative galleries for respectively Ninh and Nawin. In terms of the structures for today's event, Ninh will start his presentation followed by Nawin. Each talk will take about 15 minutes, and I will introduce each speaker just right before they start their presentation. After both artists have concluded their presentation, I will be in conversation with them on some of the key points that will have emerged from their discussions and presentations. Of course, we will be very happy to take your questions at the end of the event. Please write your questions in the chat box or notify us that you would like to intervene. We would be more than welcome to have your comments, and we actually hope for a very dynamic and engaging conversation. And lastly, before I start, just a few housekeeping rules. This talk is recorded, as I mentioned earlier. You will be able to watch it at your own time on the JWD webpage under the news section. It is also recorded and live streamed on Facebook. Please keep your mic on silent at all times to minimize digital noise. And lastly, Mary, our JWD host for today, is available to assist you if you are experiencing any technical glitch. Please use the chat box to send the message to Mary, and I believe she might have already highlighted this point on the chat box. So without further ado, I would like to introduce Ninh before handing it over to him. Ninh is a fine art practitioner and educator from Hanoi, Vietnam. He graduated from the Pennsylvania Academy of Fine Arts in 2018 and the University of Fine Arts and the Vietnam University of Fine Arts in 2014. His work explores the way in which we construct our understanding of territories from afar. His practice has been the focus of several recent articles that have appeared on Hyperlogic, New American Paintings, and Art and Market in 2021. Ninh has been in residence at the Skogen School of Painting and Sculpture in 2018, Basaik Project in 2018, the Corporation of Yaddo in 2019, the Marble House Project in 2019 in the United States, and Plop in the United Kingdom in 2020. His work has been shown in New York, London, Philadelphia, Kuala Lumpur, Singapore, Hanoi, Ho Chi Minh, and I am now pleased to say also in Bangkok at JWD with our show. Ninh is represented by the gallery A+ Works of Art, Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia. He is currently assistant professor of painting at the Vietnam University of Fine Art and associate lecturer at RMIT University, Ho Chi Minh, Vietnam. I lastly would like to add that in 2020, Ninh has released his first ever video game titled Institute of Distance. This is a role-playing game in which the player is a soul atom that can choose its body parts and fate for its next life and be reborn infinitely. The goal is to collect as many survival experiences as possible before the player runs out of life points and has to start over again. We will hear a lot more from Ninh, so please Ninh, join us and share your practice and insights. Thank you.
Hello, thank you so much for having me. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. It's been a great pleasure to be here, and I think that a good way to spend a Saturday in the lockdown is to have a talk with people. I've been working on this project for the past 4 years, and whenever I have to give a talk about my world building project, I always feel nervous because I don't know how much I can cover, because sometimes it can be all over the place, but I will try my best. So today I'm going to talk about my land, which is the name of my world building project. I'm going to talk about 3 parts. The first part is the game. So Loredana mentioned the game earlier. I'm going to walk you through the game. The second part is about my background, and I'm going to give you, a story. I'm going to tell you the story that I have crafted very quickly before this presentation. Lastly, is about the project. So the last part is, the bigger project that relates to everything that I have ever done for the past 4 years. Okay, so first of all, the game. So I just released this game this year, and I applied to the Almaty residency in 2020, and I got the funding for all of the I have the funding and the technical help from RMIT, but I always wanted to make a game before, because when my project was complicated enough, I couldn't really explain it using text. So I think a game could be a great way to explain that. So this is the game. As you can see, let me move this window. Okay, so this again. Let me walk you through. Hello, user, welcome back. I am a priori your soul atom. We were just separated a while ago, the moment you hit the new game with your keyboard. Do you know what happened? You just died. Yes, I mean we did. So now you and I are here to reconfigure our next life. You should not be surprised, as we have done this multiple times before. Okay, so of course we want to be ready. So we're here. This is the Institute of Distance, where you choose the configurations for your next life. You see them, the critters. Last time you were here, you killed some of them. 1, 2, and 3. The critters are annoying. You can kill them, but try to do it wisely. They can permanently block your way. Now you see the first door. So this is the first door. Get there, let's continue the tour. Okay, so we need to avoid the critters because they kind of blocking my way to get to the first door. Here is the face generator, which will which will help you configure your fate. So, okay, but the room is too dark. We need to find some light. There's a light switch right there on the right. Be careful, don't let me touch anything before we find it. Listen and do carefully. Push me up 3 steps and turn me to the right. So what we need to do is 1, 2, 3 step up. Okay, so we turn the switch. We did it. This is a sphere of fate used to push it to one of the colors. Each of them corresponds to a fate. Do you remember do you remember what you chose last time? Well, we can guess. It might be or it might not. I don't know. A priori doesn't have a memory. I can't remember things. But I remember this. Beware of the critters, as they might block your options. And one more thing, the fate generator will save your configuration. Next time you enter the room, you will need to turn it on again. Remember, up, 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 and then right. Now let's choose a fate. Which one? Okay, I think I like the purple. Okay, good. Great, you have chosen a fate. Now direct me to the second room. You have to gather some body parts to complete your our physical form. It's right there next to the first room. So this is the room. Awesome. This is the organ generator. You can find our body parts here. The organ generator is still under development. For now, you can only choose your eyes, legs, and ears. Each pair of eyes, legs, and ears will have different effects on your next life. But I don't know what they are because I don't have a memory. I'm so sorry. So you have to figure out, you have to figure that out for yourself. Good luck. So we have two doors here. We can go to the right first, for example. This is the thing we have to pick up. And we have two options for the spine, maybe the vertical one. Or do you want the next life to be stupid or smart? Well, I want to be smart. And we need to take this one. Well, if you don't take the eye, then you cannot get out of the room. So the leg and maybe this here, I don't know. Excellent, your form has been set. There are two more rooms, you should check them out. They are the accumulation of your past lives. Maybe it can help remind you of something. Of course, I can never be sure. Once you are done with them, you can go to the eye sockets to be born. So here, that's the first eye socket, and here it's the second one. It's your sacred moment. I hope that you will enjoy it. So basically, we have two more rooms, but I just discover, let's just walk you through this room quickly, because this one is there are 8, I would call it sculptures over here. They represent the 8 experiences that you have in your life, and whenever you can collect an experiment, it's going to be here, and you can reveal a story behind each sculpture. So right now, uncollected experience, you should live more. There are 8 experiments, and if you can collect all of the 8 experiences, and if you can collect all of the 8 experiences, basically you finish the game. Okay, so you need to be born. Okay, and the configured fate number is 17. You're a cat. Let's live together. Huh. I don't remember if I put this line in. You'll be born shortly. Are you ready? Maybe I need a cup of coffee. Sorry, there's no going back. No, we have to be ready. Okay, so we're born into the world. You see the bar on the top, it is the distance from your birth to our birth to our death. Whenever you make a step in the world, the distance will be a little bit shorter. Each time you have an interaction with the world, the distance will be a bit longer. Be careful with your decisions and try to have as much interaction as possible before we die. Right? There's a lot of you and we because they are two things, but they are the same. But don't worry too much. This body is just as temporal as the last one. Just try your best. That is all I know. The last thing I want to say before I have nothing else to say is I'm proud of you and good luck. Okay, so this is a cat, and when I move, you see that the health point, the life bar is becoming shorter, but we have to hit this to maintain the life. This is something I want to share with you. Is there's a level that you have to constantly have interaction with the environment to be able to survive. You just need to find a key somewhere. It's not easy, as you see the grave here. You show some respect to them, you might have a better chance to survive. Okay, so how can we do that? So we incense the grave, and you read the biography and the death, a birthday and death of the person. And then you have more life points. And I mean, it's hard for me because I designed this level, but I don't know how to overcome it. It's really hard. And I need to make this easier. Okay, so basically, if you go to the end of the end of the graveyard, you'll find a key. But the thing is that it's really hard, and well, I think I'm getting stuck here. And then I have died. This life is over. You died too young, but don't regret. Just go back to the Institute of Wisdom and start all over again. And that is the game loop. So you can start with a new pair of body parts, a new fate, and just try and collect as many life experiences as possible. But you know, if you can go all to the extreme end of the graveyard, you'll find an experience, and you can collect it, and you can read the story behind the experience in the collection of karmas. Okay, so that's the game. And I am not a game developer because this is my first game I created. Do you see? You can see the similar features of this one, right? Because this is the Institute of Wisdom. It started as a drawing first, and I made it like a game. And for the past 4 years, I've been working on. It started as a drawing project, but then it became a world building project. These are different levels of the game. I want to show them here because it really takes time to really get to these levels. We don't have time to walk through all over this. Okay, so I think we saw this in the game. Okay, so the basic idea of the game is that you have an Institute of Wisdom that functions as some sort of heaven, and you born here, and you born into the mother map, and when you die, you go back here again. But my point of view is that the Institute of Wisdom is really materialistic. So it's basically like a cell, like the first cell of you, like the first cell in a fetus, something like that. And when you can collect experience, you can bring it back to here, and it's like undividable part of your soul, and you can never get rid of it. So that is the game. Okay, so now we move on to my story. I was born in 1991. And my father really thought that I would become a great painter. I did not know why he had that idea, and he forced me study art in a very young age. And the left one is a cast drawing I did when I was, I think, 13 years old. And my professor was a propaganda artist. His name is Lai Thành. He's a very popular propaganda artist in Vietnam back then. And he taught me a lot about the graphical composition, and it's really affected my art. Around the 2000, there were different games that were really very, very popular among the young people. And this is the thing, because we did not have the game culture similarly to the way that Americans have it. You know, they have arcade games and game platform before they have PC game. But I think that PC games started our game culture. And the two games that I played the most were Counter-Strike. It's a first-person shooter game. And I really like this game because it really helped me to think about metaphysical ideas. If I get shot and die in the game, then I will become a ghost. I can fly, you know, across the buildings. I can see my friends shooting each other. So my family is not religious at all. So the game really helps me to think about, okay, so what could happen after my, after I leave the world. Very interesting exposure to this kind of philosophical ideas, but through the game. And another game that I really like to play is Medieval Total War. It is a very strategic game, and I like the idea of control of this game. I spent hours. I was very lucky to have a very good computer back then. Around the 2000, I could use 3D Max to render a scenes like this. Back then, 3D Max was only popular among the architects, but my father worked for the government, and he brought home a computer, which was a very good one. The computer had really amazing professional software, and I started to learn 3D Max using some books that he had back then. I started my formal training around 2010. I drew really well. I think so. I could draw because I loved it. And my department, my program was painting. And you know, even in the Vietnam University of Fine Arts, the doctrine still, the dominant doctrine is still socialist realism. So basically, we have to include human figures in everything we do. That is the appropriate way to make a painting, but I did not really feel responsive to it. I love landscape a lot, and I at that point I really felt the conflict between what people taught me, what people told me to do, and what I wanted to do. It's complicated. It's not as straightforward as many people have said about it before. It's complicated. It's really like it's connected from one to the other really strictly, and I cannot differentiate between the two. And that was the conflict that I had earlier when I was younger. My paintings back then was always about the idea of the conflict between me being an individual person and me being a hero to solve a bigger social context, social problem. This painting is important to me because I painted my father here, and this is me. My father wanted me to be an artist. And at some point, I did not really like it anymore. And I just think that, okay, I could open a coffee shop and get rid of art. And I could open a coffee shop for 2 years. And I tried my best to be away from art. I think that art, you know, this is strange back then, is that in the 2010s, there was a trend of people who think about contemporary art. You know, back then I had to really be used to the idea of contemporary art, and it's just a term that sounded really foreign to me. I did not feel connected to that term, but I did not know where to go. So I decided to open a coffee shop to just, you know, move on and get rid of it. I don't really love art that much. So if art treats me badly, I will quit it for sure. But then my father came in and he said to me that, hey, I don't want to have an uneducated child. You are the only son that I have. So you need to get yourself educated. So now I'll give you $40,000. You take it and you go study, or I will donate the money to the charity. And I said, okay, calm down. Well, let's talk about it. And you know, we could figure out a solution. And I said, okay, I can take the money to go study in the United States. You know, if that will not work out, then I would go back to my business again. But my time in the United States did really change me fundamentally. As you remember, in 2016, there was a Trump election. And I was really surprised by the fact that the left was actually the party that was scary to me the most. because I'm a person of color, and I'm supposed to be liking the left. But at the same time, I found that the left, the political left, and the ideology that associate with the political left were sort of patronizing in some way that I did not feel comfortable. So I decided, okay, everybody will tell me what to do. I don't want to do that anymore. I need to create something for myself. And that is when the project happened. So basically, my project started as my way to react against everything that happens around me. You know, people telling me what to do, and they kind of force me to accept and to adapt to a certain ideology. So I started the project, build up my own world, and have my own rule, and people have to learn it. People have to respect it in order to understand what's going on in my art. So over the years, the project has been developed into 4 different bodies of work. Let's put it that way. So we have the logs, the single stories, mother map, and the last body of work, I don't know how to call it, so I just put question marks in here. I have very specific requirements for each body of work, and seems like I'm running out of time. We can just move on quickly. The first body of work is the mother map. So basically, it is the cartographic project. I build up the world. I build up my world using maps, this body of work starts with the key map that's called the mother map, and I remake the mother map once every year to update the detail that I've been working on in the year. So this is the first mother map, which is pretty abstract, but this is a 2019 version. It's becoming pretty detailed. And these are the structures that I created, the structure that are associated with the 2019 version of the mother map. Okay, so this is the mother map that I created this year. There was a change, in 2020, the pandemic hit Vietnam, and it really changed the way I think about the intellect, and it changed my way of making this map, and the work has become much more organic, and it looks like a body, and I use a lot more, many more references that are medical illustrations. But I maintained the structure as before. So here is like the 4 different drawings that belong to the same location. You can see that they have a similar terrain design. And they always have a very specific location that I assigned the drawing with. This is E1, so it has that, there is the location in the land that's called the E1. And if you can explore further, this drawing goes to this drawing. So I can explore, I can chart the land endlessly. So this part goes to this one. I think this is the best drawing I have ever made. And I developed this part into another drawing. So basically, it's like a game I can play with myself. Okay, so this is a drawing that I made for JWD, the exhibition that we are having right now in Bangkok. really want to thank JWD for this picture because it looks great. They belong to the F8 coordinates. It's the bottom edge of the land. And you can see that's the bottom edge because you can see the sky here. The first drawing and the second drawing. Okay, so that's the mother maps body of work. We have another body of work that's called logs. So basically in this body of work, we build, we develop different scientific, imaginary scientific experiments. This one is a machine that can gather the sky, different pieces of sky together. So if you put your phone here and take pictures of the sky, you can bring this outside, you can bring it everywhere on Earth. This machine will put an index in the picture, and it will have stitch the images together to bring different skies together and put them into a same sky. This is another project I did in Skowhegan. I designed 3 projectors. Oh, actually they call theodolites. And they are the tool that used in land surveillance. The project is that I try to use the 3 tool to construct the shape of a territory that I don't need to go in, a territory that is far from myself. So in this case, I use the trajectories of the cows in the residency, and I try to track the cows, the trajectories of the cows from afar. And all of the projects, all of the process was done using manual methods. So there's no calculations, no PCs, no, we did not even use numbers. We had to design a new protector to work with the theodolites. And actually, finally, we can build the trajectories of the cows. And this is a real thing. We did not make this up. So that was very interesting to me because playing with drawing for a long time, I feel like bringing the laws that are only applied in a paradoxical world back in a world that is physical, that we all live in, is really hard and challenging, and I want to tackle that. So this is another machine. It's a meteor, I don't know how to say this word, generator. Basically, if you bring this outside, the wind will turn the dishes here, and it will form different set of symbols that indicate different terrain. So this is the machine that turns wind into terrains. Okay, so fun facts about my land. It's not in our history. It does not have time. It does not have depth. It does not have sizes. So you cannot tell how big a thing is. What the movement can be perpetual. It's impossible to have a calendar. And most importantly, your knowledge is incompatible. So you are a foreign in my land. As you know, I also write short stories, and they are meant to be single stories, meaning they don't have a date. I can't work on them and continue to write. And the only version that that is official is the version that I uploaded on my personal website. So I can read some of an excerpt of the writing here for you to understand my style of writing. The Yellow Army is a strictly disciplined and hierarchical organized force that has a medium body temperature. They believe that it is their ultimate mission to inhabit the wax fortress because the fortress is made of wax, which has a low melting point and therefore is not suitable for any other forces that have higher body temperatures than the Yellow Army. Basically, the characters in my writings are concepts. They are not real characters, so I can play around with the concept, but I can still maintain a narrative across the stories. Okay, so the last approach, I don't know how to call it, but it is something that's in between art and design. We also try to make comic strips and different souvenirs. And the idea is that we also understand a territory from afar by different souvenirs. Let's say I have never been to Egypt, for example. Maybe some of my friends went there, and when they came back, they gave me a souvenir. When I look at it, I can imagine the life in Egypt, but I don't need to get there. So I like that. I like the idea of building up the understanding of a country or something is foreign to me, thanks to secondary material. And in this project, I can redesign the secondary material to persuade you that the land that I am creating is real, even though we all agree that it's not. Well, there's no scientific evidence that my land is real, but who knows? What is science anyway? If I can manipulate science. So we create, we talked about the game earlier, but this is the packages. So we created 22 editions of the game, and we sell it on Etsy. And the game has been published on Google Play Store, and we are publishing the game on App Store as well. And for our next step, we just moved from this studio to this new studio. So IAM is the new studio right now. We really look forward to have the pandemic over, and I hope that everything will be over so that we can start a new project, because right now it's kind of hard, but we will try our best to continue the quest. Okay, thank you so much. I think I have been well over 15 minutes, so sorry for that.
Don't thank you so much, Hanim, and don't be sorry, because it's been fascinating for me that I'm familiar with your practice since we've worked together for the exhibition, but I'm sure for all our audience, the way you work is really fascinating. And there is indeed a very tight contact between virtual reality, a video game, and the real world through your drawings. So there's, it seems to me there's a very connected link between the two. And we will explore a lot more of this. And I have questions for you. I'm sure everybody does. After your presentation was very clear. One point, I think, when you said why your dad really wanted you to study art, I think he saw a great potential in you. And I think he did very well, because you are coming up as a very interesting art practitioner. So thank you so much for your presentation. And I now would like to move on and to introduce Nawin so that he can go after and do his presentation. Nawin Nuthong is a Thai contemporary artist and curator, exploring the connections between history and cultural media through a wide range of mediums. Melding myths and legends with popular cultural references from video games, comics, and films, he examines the role technology has to play in reconfiguring the learning and understanding of history. He is a graduate from Kin Mongkut Institute of Technology, Lakraban, with a major in film studies and digital media. In addition to his art practice, exhibition he has curated include Plato Expectonum in 2017, This Nor Mundane, The Mystery Shack 999 in 2018, as well as Mappa in 2019. Nuthong is also presently one of the managing members of the Bangkok iconic independent art space, Speedy Grandma. He lives and works in Bangkok. And for those of you who live in Bangkok, you might remember his exhibition earlier this year at City Gallery titled The Immortals Are Quite Busy Today. which was based, in fact, on the adoption and references of gaming culture to explore structures of knowledge that surrounds us by considering the notion of threshold, intended by Nawin, and I quote, as a boundary demarcating the liminal space between experiences. We will hear a lot more about this project, which also developed onto a website from Nawin. So Nawin, if you can please join us, we are looking forward to hearing your comments and sharing your experiences on video games and art.
Okay. Okay, so I'm gonna share my screen now. Good evening, everyone. Thank you that let me join this conversation because I love Hanin work a lot and feel great that I can share my research actually about the map and how new generation approach to the new concept of map and stuff. Start sharing. Okay, if it's okay if I keep it like this, like not full screen. So, okay, gonna introduce myself now. Actually, I'm artist and also curator. I'm one of the managing of Speedy Grandma Art Space. So the question I have all along since I'm doing curator and like I approaching art for like for we come together and figure out the question and try to do the research. We didn't work it by letter and sentence, but we like try to do some research mining and figure out what it is and to expand the main question to be others. The question that I have all along since I work in the art practice is how game teach us to re-narrative the history. Because I fascinated a lot about the concept of the internet and post-internet. Because I have heard of, I want to share you something like, after we have internet, right? I believe that they are, when artists and art students work in a particular material, some like wood and concrete and other stuff, they are full with history. So what happened after the internet is on? It's like the people keep express their anxiety or feeling throughout the many memes and many weird things that just popping up on that era. So actually, I'm not a video game artist, but I can share you this. This is my sketch from the last exhibition. Actually, it looked like encyclopedia that I work with a lot of the game element. So first of all, I will share you these two cards that I make. Actually, this is the face of Pham that appear in game Civilization. I want to get closer to it and understand it more. So I try to talk to the art team and try to go into the blog and stuff. So the thing that I found that in that game they have so many characters, some like Cleopatra, Julius Caesar, Nebuchadnezzar, and with the research of the Ram Kamhang, they said that they cannot find the real document of the face. The statue of Ram Kamhang is the ancient king of Sukhothai. They are for spiritual and they don't want to use the spiritual statue. So they put the Thaksin Shinawat face, like our prime minister that have the conflict of so in Thailand, we have the conflict of the era about this icon of Thaksin Shinawat and the left and right side keep fighting. So I want to, that all I understand by research and by understanding the text. So I want to understand it more. So I collect all of the elements that I attach that it touch some of the history and touch some of the new interest of the object. So it become the whole map of the understanding of the object online. And one thing that I found out that we as a human practice, we understand that spoon talk about our culture, but we haven't understand enough that how spoon in video games, some like spoon in Counter-Strike, it appears and decoration, right? How it how the different it is from two of them. Some like book in video game, does it work as a book in the real life, and how it different. Yes, and there are so many things like my the Immortal quite busy this day is kind of like my context books that I open the page and I found out, and I have some time explore it more, some bullet by bullet. If you're interested in the project, you can go to the website bcimmortal.com. Actually, I got help by one of my social practice friends that they collecting and interview and spreading out of the bullet, something like that. And after I doing this, I see that there are a lot of things that we need to understand the object in the virtual. The one thing that I interested about the map, actually you can see the background here that I made. I make it from the campaign, the world edit that some game give it the real game, right? And they add on the software to create the ground and the physics of the map. So interested in this kind of simulation also, because rather than the object that plays in the surface, right? The map and the whole concept of the ground setting is also interesting. I have some time explore the old game and how weird of the file it is and how it appear. I would rather say I try to reach to the ontology of tree or simulation object, and I interest a lot in trees because trees are one of the biome and one of the object that connect to the ground. So if you go back to the last exhibition, there are first part, the encyclopedia are the second part, but the first part is all about the trees and and how is it and how it as a character embed a land or something like that. And actually, the thing that I found out that I interest a lot in the game object and how it trade to each other. And the thing that I am also the factory manager that I need to care of rather than artist and curator. And I understand that there are something like toys production or the manufacturer try to get the commission from the game company and how it manufacture, how the demand and supply of the people who want the thing in the game and 3D, right? In the other simulation, but it have to understand themselves by the material and produce it out. So in the research that I try to reach a map of the threshold of the cultural production and understand the new map of the world, it led me to the toy manufacturer also, and how it fighting with the condition of the production and reach it out. Some more interesting is about the counterfeit, the democracy of do we own the cultural icon or something like that. They appear so many things. You can check it out by the website. But I want to with the more research on the, I said before that this is the context book that I open, right? So I actually do my previous project, a room where they are co-evolve, that I will show you later. But actually I find out that I have talked to a lot of audience, other artists that coming to the exhibition, and they see that there are a lot of UX UI message or symbol. Some like when you go into the show, you will see that the people will be bigger than the house. The house is smaller than the monster. There are some UX UI language that if you play game and play some, you look at some infographic, they meant that you understand the storyline, but the proportion is really weird and something like that. So I want to understand and explore more in the language of the distance and measurement. In the more abstract way, I want to understand in the distance of the knowledge bullet also. Some like with my interest in simulation and history, I want to understand the distance between each two also, or the website BC Immortal. I want to understand some like trade-off threshold, how far is it farther than the pop-up window. So I do more research, and I keep go further. Before I talk about the next project, I want to share you this about they have something called archeo gaming. Explain more about it. It's kind of like the actually archeo gaming is not this keyword. It's like it's not official, but there are a lot of people doing the understand how water in each generation of video game appear. Some like water in Mario, it only like 18 bit or 18 pixels. You can only jump there and die. But in this day, if you go in and at some like GTA and very realistic, you can actually like swim and do a lot of it. But in archeo gaming that I attach to is more about the understand essence of history and archaeology in the game virtual. I can explain you by talking about this two statue. This is from my exhibition view, the Immortal by BC this day. Actually, everyone know that this is Sing Khmer. In Thai, we call it Sing Khmer. It's a lion from Cambodia. But actually, two statue, it's a toy from a toy company. The name of it is Thai Ancient Guardian. It's really complicated because the storyline of the toy it come from the Street Fighter storyline. Actually, in Street Fighter, they have the big boss named Sagat. Sagat have some like if you fighting Sagat in the boss scene, you will see the statue on the background. So this one actually create the storyline by Japan and produced by American, and I appear it and I see it in the eBay. So it kind of like this statue understand that I explained the a lot of doors and cultural production trading rules and how many thresholds are there in the line of production. And this one appear in the website BC Immortal also. I like it because it let me understand a lot that the ancientness it not attached to the time and duration, but it attached to the texture and skin and how position it in the storyline, something like that. So it kind of like a little hole for me to explore more. So I try to re-understand it and like finding the place to. So what I do after it, I trying to do the little hypothesis. I collect this to and force it with Nicole Robin. I don't know if you guys know Nicole Robin. No, it comes from the One Piece story. One Piece is kind of like the contemporary manga that's still going on and going on. Nicole Robin is the only archaeology in that world building. So I try to force them together and try to understand the new notion of the archeo gaming and notion of the history. When after I do it, I understand that I didn't want to going to the history discipline or the concept of history archaeology, but the thing that I want to understand is more about the when family are at the dinner table and they discussed about the history, the political, they're fighting for like you are bad, this guy are bad, the politician are bad, something like that. They use the different concept of the history. And actually when the big brother that coming to the dinner late because of they having a game with their friend, they use the different history narrative also. So I interest in that like different and want to find want to reach out more for more question or stuff. So this is the video still from a room where they are co-able that the thing and Nicole Robin are like rehearsal in the hypothesis of the thing. Actually, if you go to this work, you will see this speculate measurement also. I use the word coeval, like it comes from Johannes Fabian. This kind of concept, I understand Fabian, because Fabian, he said that he hate when art and institution use this word also, because it's the word of ethnographer, and ethnographer try too hard to aware themselves when they going on the field research. Actually, coeval the mean of coeval is what I understand. I don't understand it clearly, The word coeval is when the Catholic researcher go met some tribe and they use some different concept of time, and they need to aware that. So I think the concept of coeval fit in the hypothesis of Nicole Robin and this Cambodian lion, and how it forced the timeline to make a glitch and something like that. This one I just want to show you that it come from the genie lamp and the smoke. When the genie lamp appears, smoke and the genie is not there, those two forms change to the measurement. Actually, in this project, want to track down the knowledge of the measurement and distance in the digital world, and what human as a new human practice that receives this a lot. I believe that after 22 years of kids have time to game a lot, and older need to get fit in line and more application. We have learned so many new things. We have learned some like today, if we imagine our bedroom, right, it's gonna be some cinematic. Before it's gonna be some cinematic kind of camera, but right now it can be more than that. It can be like a drone or some like specific bird eye view. And I believe that people haven't, some like GTA also, people haven't had an experience that you can go out a house and shoot everyone and redo it again. I think people just used to it. And in the game culture, they have something called godlike, godlike. It's kind of like new achievement that people can getting closer to the creator. That stuff. You can check this thing out. I think it will be it'd be at the City Gallery right now, but I think they will be reopened in the 15 or 16 of next month. Sorry, I forgot the date. And actually, you will see that there are so many like mess of object in this show and in this project. Some like I putting down the history essence, some like this 3 paper here. How immortality embody history embody immortality is the thing I want to experiment, and I want to see how it act to each other, and they have so many form and appear in different version. So I think because I've been working as a curator for 7 years, and I think a lot about what is the curatorial and what's in the air, between artwork and artwork, and how far it should be to each other. So that ground of curiosity led me to shape the way I shape the question of the exhibition also. So actually, this one is what I said before, the hypnothesis, right? So I have a chance to work with a writer, his name is Pot, and we speculated out that, okay, what actually this thing represent. And I think and what it reminds us is about maybe the speculate, the measurement, the main piece about this is the Bhumibol Dam. Bhumibol is like our our last king name, Rama IX. At that era, at that intersection of history, there are Americans here in Thailand, there are CIA, right? There are military coup who take care of the city, of the governor, and how this like terraforming the land and block off the water, and how powerful of the political that create the weird big building blocking, and how should we go back and re-understand it in the new concept of the political. One thing that I want to share you with about actually when I think about the duration and distance, I want to understand the political graph also, because we know that left are what and right are what, right? But right now, simulation teach us that they are not a flat line. They have the X and Y and they are 3D right now, and yeah, how we understand it again. And somehow I believe that this kind of new things, the understanding of the 3D object and the digital knowledge, somehow I think it's not too new to, I think it activate the local also. It still embody the ontology knowledge it with us. I don't know how can explain it. Okay, so more than my art, I want to share my research also about 5 things that I want to share you, and I think it attached to the Hanin work with the concept of map stuff. So this is the show name Mappa that I worked with Speedy Grandma team last year. Actually, we attached to the concept of New Island. I don't know, have you heard of it before? But New Island is the place, the not real island. Like in the Greek, in Greek they believe that there are some New Island. They are the place called New Island that are spawn of the monster. Some like lava monster or the big snake or the cyclops come from New Island, and New Island are pleasant and zero. So cartographer on that day can track down where they're going by knowing that New Island are 0. But the interest part is like, because they are 0 in the history of cartographer. Right? So when technology come, today you can go there and you find 0. It only the plastic floating. I don't know how to call it in English. Like you can see this at New Island. But today people know that it not appear and all the monsters are gone. They are not real. But right now, some like 10 years ago, if you use iPhone 3 or iPhone 2, if you take some photo and you didn't connect to internet, it will appear in the detail that you take a photo in New Island. So in the cartographer history, instead of monster are there, but today there are so many junk data that living in the New Island. So it kind of the problem for cartographer also. So it kind of like this thing can mimic us as an fiction knowledge, and it let us understand something about the history of cartography. And this one is the thing I discussed with Hanin before about the Counter-Strike. I didn't like Counter-Strike. I think I'm bad at shooting game, but Counter-Strike gives us a lot of visual data because it fit in our young routine. Because if you go to like the local internet cafe, you will see like 10 of kids playing Counter-Strike together, because there are no other game on that day, and this game is like can running by the bad computer. So the point is, I have some chance that I need to write some article about the date, the immortality. So it's funny that when I try to understand the form of the ghost and what will be after the date and how we fly in the real world, we got it from Counter-Strike, like the spectator mode. Actually, before Counter-Strike, it might be Casper. Casper told us that you can walk over the wall, right? But Counter-Strike have some unique dynamic of how it moves and how it slightly. And the thing that I want to talk is the operational image from Harun Faruqi. Actually, I understand. I got a lot of things from him. I'm like, because he researched a lot about the media that come from wars, how it come from wars and go into the supermarket. He talked a lot about how human understand the chessboard, like the slip and the different represent the horse, represent the ships, represent the king and queen, and how that CCTV monitors representing circle are the people who are shopping, and the square are people are the card that they use, something like that. So he is the first of giving me this concept of like operational image and how object online are holding their own ontology and stuff. And this one is the this is kind of nerd one. This is the if you see Pokemon, right? I think people should know Pokemon by their child and by their own. Pokemon right now have like 800 Pokemon, and they are, I forgot how many generations they have, maybe 7 or 8. And I read a lot about the game books. I love to have Pokemon books because it get old really quickly and it goes sale really quickly. So in that kind of game manual, they have some article about how generation and generation get rid of their team. Some like from first to second, right? They don't want to be control of the second generation, so they clear off the creative and off the board member. So if you young and you look at the Pokemon, you will on that day you will hate the second and third and complain how it not fit in the Pokemon world or something. So so right now it come with 800, right? But I want to explain you because this one named Giratina is kind of the legend Pokemon. Pokemon has so many legends, and they all represent the myth and the world building. Some like Giratina is the god that represent the gravity and delusion. But I love how the team create the map and create the concept of this character because the team want to represent the knowledge of the gravity, right? So when they research, they find out that the research of gravity right now is not stable because there are so many arguments, and somehow the creator collect all that argument and all that possibility and all the conflict of the theory to this character Giratina. So if you enjoy the game and see the Pokemon movie, you see the complexity and not sure about that in the whole world creation. And the last thing that I want to mention about is the worldedit.exe, because since we have Bomberman, right, or Pac-Man or Mario, it actually come with the chance that we can change the campaign map, which means that you in the real game you can change a little bit. You can, let's say, you can change the wood building. You can place that you will want here, but you cannot do further than terraforma. If you want to do terraforma, you have to close the game and reopen the another software to rearrange it and play it. I think this kind and the famous game right now, some like ROV or Dota, are created by this technology and this marketing also, because because the company use the software and put it out to people that can create. So there are a lot of games you haven't wait for opportunity to develop a game, but the blog and internet lead you to create your own and push it out. Okay, that's all that I want to share with you guys. I think we can discuss more later.
Thank you. Oh, hold on. Thank you. Thank you so much. Nawin, again, also an interesting and incredible practice, and both yours and Hanim practice involve in a very different way the use or the adoption of video game elements in it. So I think the conversation, the three of us, will be very stimulating to see how actually you came into using video game from different perspective a little bit. I'm really very grateful, first of all, to you guys for sharing your insight and your knowledge with us. So as we said earlier, we will have with this last part of this online event for conversation amongst the three of us, and then also we'll open up to the questions from the audience. I have marked down a few key points and questions that I have for you that perhaps can provide a little bit more information to the audience and also connect and expand on the historical and cultural elements that you have in your practice. One first question that is a background actually question. You both mentioned your growing up years in the 90s, and Nawin, also you explained some of the games that you were familiar at that time. So also Hanim, you mentioned how the gaming, video game culture in Southeast Asia is quite specific, and unlike that of the United States, where there's been a much longer history with the arcade, and also I think different technology that has supported the video game cultures growing up much faster. In Southeast Asia, it only happened in the 90s with the use of the PC. And you both mentioned Counter-Strike as one of the iconic games that your generation played, and amongst other games. Today, actually, Thailand and Vietnam are two very strong countries in producing and consuming video games. So there's been a huge growth in the last 2 or 3 decades. I would like to know from you, in light of all of this, the influence that the game culture, that the culture that you grew up in your teenagers here, basically, the influence and the impact that that culture had on your current practice as artists and as curators. In your case, Nawin, have you used that structure of thought, the video game structure, for curating as well as creating your game? Anyway, go.
Yeah, can you go first, because I need to form my answer a bit.
Okay. Oh, let me think first. I think the thing that I want to share before is the I find that the position I have, like the position we have in the trade route line, some like rather than video game also, and because when I was young, I play a lot of the fake game, you know, not the real game. We cannot afford the real game, kind of like 2000 more, and with we need Chinese. When Chinese have some deflect item, we got receive discount. So we got rid of the toys and video game because of. But I think video game give us the new perspective, right? When I do a lot of show, I want to say that we have the thing called the LC. The LC is if you buy the real box, right? Let's say if you buy Warcraft, and there are so many add up line. So we separate knowledge like that. Like there are some, we can say there are some motherboard and some add-on stuff. So what I have to do and what I love to pack my knowledge together, that okay, we not want to talk big like the main game, but we want to explore and keep it aesthetic and shape like DLC and stuff. So those are the things that I get it from.
Yeah.
But more than that, it's about the visual language a lot. Because yeah.
And you said earlier about the rules of the game, right? Because games have visual rules, but in an email you said that the rules are not really the rule of the game, but it's a projection, or it's the rules are embedded in our minds already. So it's a part of our minds in the first place, and when we play the game, just the position of the rule that is in our mind and the rule that's in the game, that's the game. It's this is no objective existence of the game, but when the two rules match each other, and that is where the game functions. So I really like that idea, and I think that I don't know why computer games were really popular in the 90s and early 2000s, maybe because of the widespreading PC computers, because back then we had like in a country they really had a long tradition of computer games. They started with arcade platforms, but for arcade platforms it's much more difficult to replicate the content. So in Vietnam, I remember in Vietnam, most of us played video games using pirated DVDs. So we would go to the store and would buy some very cheap game copied by the store, and the installation was really easy. And because we already have a computer, we could actually install everything we want. So it was cheap enough so that everybody could have access to it, and it became a culture because we were young. Like we want to be competitive. We want to join in a competition, and I think that the spatial property of the game, whether it's a 3D game or the 2D game, later had the visual structure really affected the way I created my art, especially at the moment I started my land project, because I realized that, okay, I want to build a game. I want to be the developer. I want to create the rule, but I want people to acknowledge that my rules are universally accepted. So making use of games rule to build up an art project, to me, is the best strategy to make people believe that what I'm creating is actually functioning. It's really functioning. It's not something that I make up, but it's the real world. And that the quality of conviction is really important in my practice. So, and I know games, I grew up with it. So it's something that I can make use of as well. So that's my strength, and I have a practical reason for it. And I included it as a structure of the game. Yeah.
I think listening to both of you and observing your practice as in the video game, in your artistic practice, and you've done also curatoria, but also the exhibition that I saw, I think your game has influenced you perhaps in the visual and in the way you organize your research in the case of Nawin. And how you connect that type of research that you conducted in, quite historically, but it's connected on a even ground. And for you, Hanim, in you actually develop the game layer by layer, and how this atom moves in the space is clearly an influence of the culture that you grew up with, which leads me to the next point, which is much more specific in terms of your practice and what we've observed so far. Some of the elements that are really seem to be of great importance in visually and conceptually for both of you, and that of mapping. Mapping, which takes different dimensions, I think, is not only measurements in relation to space, and specifically the body in the space. I would say that is a concern that Ahnim has quite clearly in your drawings as well as in the video game, but also mapping in terms of mapping different points in history. So kind of a historical mapping for you, Nawin. So how can you tell us a little bit more in terms of how you deal with this idea of mapping in the space or historically in your art, and in terms of production of knowledge, how do you use it to convey your message? Nawin?
Let me think. Think a little. I think what I used before, and I like how it looks. Actually, I interest in the history narrative a lot, and I try to understand that how we receive it because we learn in a school, we receive the history national narrative, right? And in the social books there are so many of line and bullet, like what Hanin used in the top of the presentation also. But the thing that I try to do is to like before I make the exhibition plan, I change all of things into card because there are so many of 3D object toys. So I put everything in card and like to re-understand it when I'm playing it. So and it's not a hierarchy by the main event. Some like, okay, the first card gonna be the king icon. The second card gonna be the plaque, let's say the plaque scene or the revolutionary scene or something. Card is the thing I have learned how to see it around the message. It can create other possibility of constellation also. Some like tarot card that it come with the main map. So it didn't come directly in the line, but it can jump and there are so many cards that, okay, this card gonna support this card, so it sit like close together, something like that. This, I think this would answer the first question also. Like everything, some like card, we can see the more possibility of the visual connection or something like that.
Yeah.
I think in the slides that you've shown, the mapping is really very functional in adding that and creating more possibilities in connecting different historical moments or elements. And I will talk about history and individual cultural trajectory a little bit later. But I think use of map in your case is very strong and very obvious in the way you use the information and your research and how you organize it. Yeah, and for Hanim, I think is a different type of organization. So
it's different because I think about cartography as method. I did not really think about cartography as a form that I want to achieve in my art. The project started as a mapping project. So with the key map, it was back in 2017. I started with a key map and I developed each drawing from the key map. So so that I can have a connection between the subsequent maps, key map. And back then I realized that, okay, if these drawings were separated, and they just have, a very weak meaning. They always have weak meaning because when they put them together, when they started to have a connection between them, all of them will form like heavy meanings. And I want that if they function individually as individual painting, then they will never have that weight. So it started as a mapping project, but then later on in 2019, it became a world building project. The reason for that is that I realized that, okay, cartography as a method is a good way for me to deal with the feeling of distrust. I remember when I was in art school, I was in a painting department. I studied painting. And one of my professors, he was really old. He said to me that a painting is a window that gives you the entrance to the transcendence. I did not know what that means back then. So, but later on, I kind of feel related to that.
It.
I still remember. I still remember a lot of things that my teacher said to me. I'm a good student, so I try to remember everything. I did not do what he said, but over the years, I've been thinking about it a lot. The thing is that when you are a painter and you made a painting, you really, really trust the visual of the painting. So that is like the truth, right? So that is the reason why you are a painter in the first place. You made something that you really, really trust, and that is your truth. But over the years, I've been into so many different environments in which people told me that I'm wrong. I tried to open a coffee shop, and my father told me that, hey, this is not a good child. You are not a good child. And tried to do landscape, and my teacher said to me that, hey, for the future young people, you need to do something for society. And I learned French in 12 years, and I couldn't really use it anyway because I applied to the French school and they rejected me really harshly. And I got really hurt, and I tried to learn English again to go to the United States. So like in my life, I have been in so many situations when I really have to do everything from scratch. So I really have a hard time to trust anything. So the idea, okay, making a painting and really trust it is something really, really strange to me. And the map can solve that, because when you create a system that can have a relationship, if you can design the relationship between different items in the map, then you can be separate relatively from the system to be independent for that system. So it's really helpful for me to observe what's going on in the system that I create. I have 4 bodies of work. They basically mean like 4 different branches of the system that I create. And mapping is really convenient because you can change, right? You can change the element, or you can change the connection between the element. And each time you do that, the whole meaning will change. And you can be sort of separate from it. You don't need to check. So I read and I that is the thing that I learned when I was in the United States, and it really changed the way I do art and the way I live as well.
That's also fascinating. Thank you, Hanim. I think at the end, for both of you, mapping, this idea of mapping, which is a concept that we've been using a lot in terms of artistic practices, cultural practices, mapping, creating new alternatives, new possibilities. I think a part of both your practice, mapping is functional, I would say. For you, especially, Hanim, is functional to provide you a tool that you can control, basically. This is what I understand. And for Nawin, is functional in the sense that it provides him the possibility of creating that many constellations that he needs in order to produce knowledge, the knowledge that he wants to increment. One dimension, I think that it's perhaps fair to say it's both of you in different percentage. And the other dimension of mapping that I think is present again for both of you, it's an existential element to it. because for you, Hanim, and also listening to the presentation that you was taking us through the game, I noted down some words, some keywords. This map is really a connection between life and death. And because this thing needs to be created, put organs together, and by chance and maybe being clever, he, she, it can get new lives. And so it's running on a sharp blade, basically, from life and death. And that is an existential question in itself, that is actually very important to all of us. And so maybe you can say a little bit more about on this note. And for Nawin, the connection of historical elements that are very distant, like the Khmer sculptures with recent video games. It also creates, existential questions in terms of how the individual or a particular civilization is placed in history. So I don't know if you agree with me, but I sense that in your practices.
Yeah. I like existentialism because the quest of finding myself as an individual has been, very important for me for a very long time, because I grew up here in Hanoi, and I think that in our culture we don't have that. Like, we live communally, collectively, but I don't think that I was taught how to live as a individual, and I really had a hard time in the United States trying to figure out how I can be an individual, and it was hard. I mean, like in terms of the goal, for example, each of us will need some sort of meaning to live, because you need to have a mission, a long-term mission, to find your life meaningful enough for you not to kill yourself. Either it's like your family, you want to live for your country, or like your friends, or maybe you have a dog, you love him or her so much that you don't want to live life. But in the past, it was my family. My family used to be my, like mission, like meaning of life. But then when I was in the United States, I realized that this did not work, because it did not help me to release a lot of the potentials that I have. And all the potentials that I had back then needed to be explored as me being an individual. So that was the lesson that I learned in the United States, and that is hard, because most of the theories and the doctrines and curriculum that tell you how to be an individual are made in the West. So we have the Western idea of individualism. We don't have yet Eastern, let's call it Eastern idea of individualism. So I don't know. I mean, I'm very picky about this. I don't want to be a Western. So how can I do? There's no answer in my culture. So I think I just need to build that up over time. And I hope that in the future, I will find something like that. But now, no.
Yes, I think you are already finding paths and ways to get to that. And about reference to your culture, I think I'll get that after we leave Nawin to speak. Actually, a final question on living for your country, or representing your country in your art. Before that, Nawin, do you want to add anything about this existential component of your works in terms of the mapping of it?
I think what I'm do all along is like today I do some project that I pushing up the concept of every load lead to cross load, and I think what I'm doing so far is only some like the first show, like it kind of focusing on the cross load on the main market. I think it so that didn't pop up the existential part of the essence. So it's gonna be more like marketplace, more like a fool with people joining. Maybe there are some like some of that part like on the edge. So I try to understand, but it's nice to
I think
concept to see.
your reference to ethnography, for instance, you reference ethnography as, and you challenge a little bit that term, the ethnographer almost forcefully trying to be aware of new ethnicities or new different ways of living. I think that is also poses a question, an existential question of how do we interact across different groups, ethnical groups, cultural groups. How do we have that point of contact? And I think your game, which, well, your exhibition that I went to see, I was very lucky because I'm not a video game person and that's not my generation. But even if it was everything quite foreign to me, I could sense all these elements of historical elements that made it accessible to me. So in that, I think there is a lot of substantial information that you provide. And on this note, I would like to ask you, or maybe just brainstorm a little bit together, the last point that connects to the exhibition, the framework of the exhibitions, which is the exhibition at JWD, which revolves around the idea of cultural identity and belonging. So Hanim, you've mentioned now maybe that existential question could be solved for your living for your country. It depends, of course, on different cultures. And we realize that perhaps the gaming cultures you come from is quite similar within Southeast Asia. But I'm interested to understand your relation to your own culture of belonging, being Thai or being Vietnamese. How does that, how is that negotiated in your works, if at all? Or do you feel perhaps that it becomes a burden and you don't want to negotiate that into it? Or you want to include it as Nawin, but incorporating elements that perhaps are more significant to you? If you can, think about this and share your ideas.
I love the question. I think it's a very hard to answer. It's tricky because it's a little bit of both, but in a weird way. But I will try to answer it in my way. Is that I am very proud to be a Vietnamese. I mean, I can cry when I watch the documentary series Vietnam War. Like I cried all the time, like no matter how many times I've watched it. But I don't feel that I have the connection with the visual culture that we all have nowadays in Vietnam. And that is the thing, because when I try to look at the people who are working in the visual fields in my country, and I think that they have different ideas of incorporating traditional visual culture back to model or contemporary design or contemporary art or something like that. But I don't have that impulse. To be honest, I don't believe in it. I think that I am proud to be a Vietnamese, but even the word Vietnamese is not suitable for my pride. So basically, I'm proud of something that has never existed. I'm proud of something that is something that will exist in the future. And I always think about that. The best thing will come. The best thing will be in the future. It's not like, it's not what has happened right now. So I don't know how to answer the question using yes or no. I think I'm proud. Yeah, it's hard, right? I'm proud, but at the same time, I know that it has not existed. So it's tricky because I think that by doing everything like this, by being an individual, I think that the best way I can be proud of my identity, being a Vietnamese, being a Hanoian, or being a Southeast Asian, whatever, that you can put many labels on me, as many as you want. But I think that there's always a reason why we have a certain identities, and the best way to be proud of a certain identities is to try your best to be yourself, to live in your full potentials, so that you can be present in life enough so that you can even make the identities more meaningful and liveliness in the reality. I don't know. I started to be like convoluted.
No, but knowing your practice and you know, we discussed your works anyway for the exhibition. I think that was actually for me what triggered my interest in your work, is that you reflect your national identity, but at the same time you create your own identity, creating possibilities for a new alternative world. And I think you do that in a very clever and an interesting way. And I see, as you say, a lot of potential in combining these two aspects of yourself.
Might tell a story right here, because it really reminds me of the story that I had in the United States. I was in Yado. It was a residency. There were a lot of like artists and writers, and I remember at Yado I met an artist, and she had been in a job interview. She had been interviewing me in the job interview earlier, and we met briefly in Yado. And I did not invite her to my studio, but she asked me to come to my studio. And she came to my studio and she said to me that, "What are you doing?" And I said to her that, "Okay, I'm trying to create a world, because I think that people, you know, they talk a lot about national identity, and they want to see the Vietnamese-ness in my work." But I said, "No, you don't know anything about Vietnamese. We don't do this. You know, my father fought in the Vietnam War, and he had never said a word about the Vietnam War, and he got wounded. I mean, he is the Vietnam War. He doesn't need to maybe like pull a wallet out and show you and say, okay, I have gone to the Vietnam War." He doesn't need to do that. And I told her that I just don't want to include my Vietnamese in my work. And she said to me, "I think you are denying your Vietnamese-ness." To me, it was really hurtful, and it seems like she was saying to me like, you are not you, which is really inappropriate. But I got that a lot in the art industry, and that's one of the things that I feel disconnected the most when I try to connect with artists. I mean, the feeling was so bad that I got that anger, and the anger became the impulses, one of the impulses that I maintain in my practice to prove that, okay, I can be Vietnamese, I can be male, I can be young, I can be whatever, but I do this, and I'm in my full complexity, and you need to maybe spend more time with me. So I put a counting clock on my website so that I can count how much time people spend with me. And you need to spend time with me, because people are complex. Don't generalize everything.
Thank you, Hanim. It's very true what you say, and we try to do that in the exhibition as well. We try to look at national identity from different perspectives, not necessarily geographic perspective, but precisely beyond boundaries. So your participation in the show, and even more now, your you know, sharing your experiences is very meaningful for me and for us. Thank you.
Thank you.
Nawin, you want to add your experience?
Because I stay in Speedy for quite long, so I met a lot of expat and foreigners. But I believe that they understand the land in their way, and when I try to understand the land beneath, I can understand more by them, like not the different, but by their own, and they activate the local by their way also. So actually I hate nationalists. I hate it, and I just like listen to the conversation about the governor nationalist vs local nationalist. I don't know how to call nationalist for the local. So it getting worse. That too getting worse. Some like what happened now in like a lot of part in Thailand. But what I do believe about this like this content is about more. I think today what I'm fighting for and what I'm trying to do, what I'm trying to learn to be a cultural sector person further than art. So they're gonna be more like museum worker, or I can see because a lot of my friends are working in this sector also. They try to improvement and they try to protect the and pushing up the local mining knowledge or something like that. But I think what I believe is we need to trigger more the cultural courtyard, because the government or the stable of the governor, they're pushing out the main Buddhist, pushing out the main concept of monarch, and they somehow it close other kind of temple, or it close other kind of like religion expression or something like that. So I think I try so hard to understand how to manage culture, and what I'm trying to do and what I'm trying to understand is to understand how to activate that courtyard, and how to set it up and let it exchange by their own crossroad. Do you understand it? I don't know.
Yeah, of course, and I think you do in your practice what we've seen today in the presentation. You do incorporate a lot of historical reference of Thailand and the region, and that is very interesting, because again in the exhibition and in this conversation, what we want is precisely to cross boundaries, not only in terms of medium like we did today between the boundary between art, the so-called fine art, and the video game, but also boundaries, geographical boundaries, or geopolitical boundaries. So it's very interesting to have this conversation with you, as we tried in the exhibition to think about opening up, not labeling within confined spaces, but opening up a conversation for it to be inclusive and observe different perspectives, which we've done today by listening to you. And also for me, it's so wonderful to learn so much from you in the way you incorporate video games in your work. So that different perspective today was primarily focused on the use of different mediums and how this complement each other. I'm really very thankful for sharing your time with us, for sharing your thoughts, experiences, and letting us see your incredible art and mind. I would like to see whether there are questions from the audience. One new question to Anne. Shall I read it to you all? You can read it also. This is a question for artist Hà Ninh Phạm. I love your brilliant ideas and always will be amazed by the amount of time for creating a whole new world in your artwork. One thing makes me concerned is that when I heard about the concept of no time, no start and no end, I did one artwork with time concept before. Therefore, when I approached my imagination of a space without time, I freaked out of how important time is for everything. Its role is too huge, which makes I couldn't eliminate time even in my thought. How do you deal with inner conflict between logic and creativity when you eliminate some important notions, rules belonging tightly to the reality of the world we live in?
I mean, this is like,
yeah,
it's a deadly question.
it's also existential, Anim. You are on that section today. That it's also a very good question, because we rely on time so much. We are made of time, basically, as human being. I don't know, maybe the video games, the time component is very important, but how do you negotiate that?
It's contradictory, because we're thinking in time, and even the speech, right? The language is made up of, like chronological sequences, or it's basically like language is time also, because we put one word to the other, and we cannot escape that, because like you say, this is a part of who we are, and it's embedded. But I think that we can still think about it. Of course, we cannot create the real environment, like any environment that will not have time. That's impossible, but it's good to think about that. And in my practice, I believe that everything that happens in my drawing will not have time. So if I draw anything, not just a Myland project, but if I draw maybe a hand on paper, if I make a graphite drawing on paper, then the hand, I mean, the drawing is temporal, right? But the drawing will fade or it will lose, but the idea and the environment I created in the drawing will remain forever. So I can call that environment timeless. And that's the logic. So that's like an axiom, and I build everything based on that. So drawing will create timeless environments. So it's conflict in our world, but it's not really conflicting in the drawing world. You can create a lot of paradoxical thing in drawing if you really think about it. But one more thing is that contradiction is expected. Contradiction is expected. So I don't think that we should try to avoid contradiction, because if we can think, if we can come up with an idea of what contradiction is, we can incorporate it with the system. And I mean, I'm a fine artist. I'm not a scientist. I design science to prove my own art practice. So I mean, it's logical in my own way. It's kind of fun and it's kind of satisfying.
I mean, this is a question I have no answer, but just come up to me. Can we have different time? So, I mean, we have a real time, the time that we live, and then we speak. But perhaps there is a different concept of time that applies in your games or in your in your practice, which is not the definition of time based by minutes. And I think if we dismantle that structure of knowledge, then we can have different and multiple times, which could be productive for this.
Yeah, and that is, I think that the reason why I think that mapping and system thinking or system making are important in dealing with time, because and we can sort of separate different elements. And for example, in my game, I create two types of time. So in the Institute of Distance, if you killed a critter, right? So the critter will remain there, will remain dead there forever, permanently. But if you do something in the world, when you die and then you are born back again to the world, everything will remain back to the previous, the original state. So basically, there's a timeline in the Institute of Distance, but there's no timeline, there's no time at all in the mother map, the world that you're born in. So that is the idea, is that you can imagine that the world, the mother map world, is a world of just drawings, right? So they don't have time, comparing to the Institute of Distance. That's my answer, but I mean, contradiction is expected, so I don't think that my answer is perfect, but I think it's okay as long as it makes me feel satisfied in my practice.
Mhm.
Yeah, and perhaps we should say that the Institute of Distance is the first location where you find yourself, right? And then after that you come out of the Institute of Distance, and then in the game, and then there is the mother map and all the other things which are also those that populate your drawings practice, right? The mother map as presented to us. Another question for another question for Hanim, which I think will be interesting for I mean, I have the same question actually. Do you do your own programming, or do you collaborate with an IT partner? Because it's sophisticated and difficult to do that. So, and the same for Nawin. I think you said you have a collaborator, but
yes. There are someone. There are someone help me doing the graph, and like, but what I'm doing is I have to fight with the condition. Okay, I'm not. I want this, but I need to change because of we cannot do it, something like that. But there are someone help me with that stuff.
Yeah,
for you.
So to me, I try to outsource this to my IT friend, but he later he claimed a very high price that I couldn't really afford. And I decided to just do it myself, and it was actually very kind of easy, not very easy, but I think it took me a month to learn the engine, and I mean, I did everything by myself except for the drawing, because you know, the amount of drawings is really big. So I started 3 months by myself. And later on, I hired an assistant to help me with the drawing, and I taught them how to, two assistants. I taught them how to do the pixel art, and I gave the drawings to them and asked them to pixelize it, and they will return to me the pixel art drawing that I include in a game. And it's been really fun to work in group. But I mean, nowadays you can learn a game engine in maybe a month or two. So it's very possible for you to do your own thing. And even coding, I know that there's a lot of languages, maybe like Python or something. It's really straightforward to learn. So I don't think that we should be, I mean, maybe you want to do your own thing, but we should be afraid of the technical. Yeah, it's very possible.
Possible. Not for me, I don't think so, but never say never. Another question, because yeah, it seems very intricate, and you also need to create your drawings. As you said just now, you said they need to be pixelated, obviously, but they first need to exist in the first place. Another question, I guess to Hanim again, this is also from Minha. It seems that you found your distinctive artistic voice after going to art school in the States. How much would you say your education contributed to this change?
I think that the education is a part of it, but most of it is my experience in Vietnam, because you can never tell. I think that I'm lucky because I have the experience being a Vietnamese for so long. Like in Vietnam, we don't have like contemporary art system or infrastructure for any type of art at all. Back then, like 20 years ago, when I really started my exposure. So I think that my vision is different because I'm from a different environment, and that's maybe the only reasonable answer for that. And this is a thing that I feel. I think that as artists, we need to put ourselves in uncomfortable situation all the time to find different potential, to bring different potential to actuality. That's maybe a way I can put it. But yeah, it's because of my background.
Thank you. I hope Tuhan Le is satisfied with this. Yes. Thank you for your answer. And the last question from Cities, SITIS. Question for both of you guys. What are the challenges when you are working with a medium that's different from the usual traditional art medium, I assume, painting or sculpture, etc.? Specifically, when you work with programming, what are the challenges that you have faced? Both Nawin, maybe you want to start, and Hà Ninh also.
I think what I haven't do painting before and do only cartoon and drawing, and okay, people would like look at it and have like good time with it. But I think of the thing that I doing, I am a kind of exhibition based people. Like what I'm doing is the storytelling. I just create a virtual for storytelling that I understand, and with the programming, I just place it in the. I just see how it fit in the storyline. Some like, okay, the graph that I do, I place it in the exhibition also. But I think, okay, people will receive it at the end. So I'm gonna start like forming it by those placing in the storytelling. And I understand all medium by that also, by storytelling. So I didn't compare it as an like painter. When I want to understand the painting, I understand by how placement is it in the narrative, the exhibition. So, but I strongly have to listen to the artist. I didn't forget that part and how it. So it the big understanding the artist and context of the art is the most condition that I fit in the whole story narrative.
So that is your challenge to have a conversation with the artist and create that common ground.
Yes. The hardest part because I do a lot of found object, so I have to push it further. Some object need to be raw as it is, and some object need to be need to have some space and have some light in it. I have to hardly understand what is proposed in the storyline. That I don't know. You understand?
Yeah. That's a challenge that you faced in crossing different mediums.
Yes.
For you, Hà Ninh?
I'm thinking, but I think that the difference is that the most important difference is I don't think that I need to teach anything when I do a painting or a drawing. So let's say if I make a painting or a drawing, I just grab a pencil or a paintbrush and just do it. You know, the process does not involve anyone else. But then when I make a game, for example, so there are actually two processes of teaching. The first process is how to teach the machine to behave in the way I want. That is challenging because the machine is stupid and it thinks in a crazy way that when I became a little bit used to the process and I understand how to do it, but in a very simplistic way. So basically, for example, you want the machine to plus 1/2 point after one step or minus 1/2 point one step, for example. You have to break it down into like feedback loop and teach the machine how to do it step by step. That's the only way the machine can understand. So that's the first process of teaching. And when the game becomes something bigger, it gets involved a lot of people. And then you are the director of the game, for example, you need to break the project down into very, very small pieces so that each person can swallow. So that's really require you to teach a lot in so many different ways. So it's challenging because I don't think that most of the time I can be articulate, but for the thing that I feel like too abstract, I just cannot do it. And it's really taking time, even like until now. We're still having problem with explaining and communicating, and this game would have taken less time if I knew how to, do everything, do the communication, and I knew how to break it down into small pieces so that everyone can deal with.
So the challenges for you, yeah, go ahead, Nawin.
Can I ask more about? Actually, I really interested in the medium like content of Hanin. I want to understand.
Yeah.
Actually, I asked this one before, but I want to understand that because before you used like drawing and painting, right? So
Yeah.
log, motherboard, or single story act together as really like abstract way. Like they're more abstract, more space for people to spend their abstract. I don't know how to explain it. But previously you used game, right? And game really strongly. Your game had really strongly rules, so it really pushed that four thing, motherboard and single story, to really have place and function, and the sense of player are really strong than before. So they really, so the abstract of placement is changed, right? So it really strongly have function to each other. So I want to know how do you think about it, or do you prepare before, or you really want the game to this communicate, or do you miss the abstract like point of view, or you want to have, or what you define to experiment later?
So first of all, I always try my best to articulate everything clearly, and I mean there's a lot of confusion already, so I don't need to use abstraction. I think it's not necessary to use abstraction if I can use a better means. So I started the project, the Myland project, using an abstract mother map because back then I did not know where to go. And I thought that, okay, I could accept just a small amount of abstraction in the project because it was good for that time. But then the project grew and I realized that it already had a lot of abstract ideas in it. So I don't need to maintain abstraction in a particular piece. I decided, okay, even if I can make everything very, very clear like daylight, the section is still there. And the more I make everything clear and clean and articulate, again, it will make the abstraction even stronger. So that's what I learned from my practice is that I don't try to be abstract, and the abstraction is a byproduct of the process of making everything clear.
Thank you.
Yeah. So I think in response to also Siti's question in terms of challenges, it seems that the additional challenge of using of developing, expanding with the into the video game is that of teaching. You use this word instead of needing to convey a message that needs to be thought and therefore crafted much more carefully than as opposed to the drawing in itself, which is only one component in a way of the video game, which of course having a time, we use again a time element, has a longer relation with the person he's interacting with. Thank you for all the questions. Actually, as well, has been very dynamic, and I'm very pleased. I think we've concluded. I had a long session this time, almost 2 hours and a half. So first of all, I would like to thank you so much, our speaker, for joining us, for taking the time to go in so much details into your practice, individual practices, in personal ideas, and how you come to create these works that are so enriching for us. So thank you very much for that.
Thank you.
Much appreciated. Just few words to conclude this session. To introduce our next event. Mary, thank you. If you can just, share the screen. So our next event, I'm very excited to introduce Beyond Life, Memory, Myth, Boundaries Beyond Life, Memory, Myth, and Matter, which will be on Friday, September 17. It will be a Friday at 3 p.m. Bangkok time. This will be our last event for the series of Artists and Conversation, and it will center on the book A Life Beyond Boundaries, which has been a source of inspiration for the exhibition. Paralleling the first event that we had in relation to the book, this last webinar, moderated by scholar and curator Vipash Punechanon, will challenge exhibition artists Phan Dien Hoa, Sitra Sasmita, and So Yu New to not only reflect on their practice or project that have been done in the past, but speculate on things that are yet to be done, on boundaries beyond life. Thank you very much. Please mark your diaries and join us in September, just a couple of weeks away. And in the meantime, I wish everybody to stay healthy, safe, and log in on the next opportunity. Thank you so much again, and sawadika.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, guys. Thank you, Nawin. Thank you, Hanim. Thank you all for
Thank you, Loredana.
joining us on this Saturday afternoon. Thank you.
Thank you. Goodbye.